Call to order the regular meeting of the Eastpointe City Council on Tuesday, May 16th, 2017 at 7 p.m. Please stand for the invocation given by Councilwoman Sarah Lucida or her student representative.
Yes.
And remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
There you go, right there.
Dear God, this past weekend we recognize our mothers and all that they have done for us. Later this month, we will honor those who have died in service to our nation. Next month, we will congratulate our high school seniors as they take the next big step to their lives. As we express our gratitude for the many blessings you have given us, we ask that you please watch over those that gave us life and nurtured us. Please let us never forget the limited sacrifice so many gave so we can have all of the freedoms we enjoy. Please guide the youth of today as they are the future of tomorrow. And please help us all to make our city, state, and country the best that they can be. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So if you would all join me down at the rostrum, we're going to salute our place.
Yep. Reverend. Get by me here. We got room. Okay. Mayor Director McNeilance is over there on your left.
Every May, we salute our police officers during National Police Week. And so this is a proclamation from the Eastpointe City Council. And I have a mayor that's shadowing me, so perhaps she would like to come forward and read this. This is very important. You just step into the microphone. Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Congress and the President of the United States of America have designated the 15th of May as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of the City of Eastpointe play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the City of Eastpointe. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of the law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the law enforcement agency of the City of Eastpointe unceasingly provide a vital public service, now therefore the Mayor and City Council of the City of Eastpointe do hereby proclaim that the week of May 14th through 20th, 2017 as National Police Week, and call upon all citizens of the City of Eastpointe to observe May 15th, 2017 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, in honor of these peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives and become disabled in the performance of their duty.
Thank you. Don't leave. You can step over here, though. And then tonight we have our Public Safety Director, John McNeilance, who would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for that proclamation and for setting aside this time for recognition of Police Week. Before I get started, I'd just like to acknowledge a couple of our officers that are here and our police chaplain. Officer Dave Fortunato, patrol officer on afternoon shift, and Officer Zach Wiederhold, one of our new officers working the afternoon shift today. We also have a few other officers on duty who are planning to be here and wanted to be here, but are tied up on calls right now. In addition, we have our police chaplain, James Friedman, who's served the department for many years. Just a few remarks about Police Week. In 1962, President Kennedy originally proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week of May 15th as National Police Week to pay special recognition to law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty. This week, thousands of police officers and the survivors of officers who were killed in the line of duty gathered in Washington, D.C. to honor the 143 officers who died in the line of duty in 2016. A candlelight vigil and memorial service were held to honor these officers, and it is certainly fitting that we also pause to honor their ultimate sacrifice in protection of the citizens that they served. The names of those 143 officers will be added to the Law Enforcement Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. That wall contains the names of over 20,000 officers who have given their life in the line of duty since 1791 in the United States. This memorial wall is a solemn reminder of the danger that police officers face every day. Yesterday afternoon, on the lawn of the U.S. Capitol, President Trump spoke at the memorial service, and in his speech to the assembled officers there, he said this: "You are the thin blue line between civilization and chaos. You come from every community and every walk of life. You are mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters. You rush into unknown danger, risking your lives for people you have never met, people you don't even know, performing your duty under the most difficult conditions and often without any thanks at all. So it is appropriate that we also acknowledge officers that continue to serve us today, and it is with gratitude and respect that we are thankful for the work of our Eastpointe officers who protect the citizens of Eastpointe each day around the clock. These officers are the first to respond to every call for help, and they are often confronted with volatile and dangerous situations. Our officers are serving Eastpointe with professionalism and distinction, and we thank them for their service. Because of the dangers they face and their critical importance to the safety of the community, it is important that we support our officers in every possible way by giving them the resources they need to do their jobs effectively and safely, and to pray for their safety each day. Again, Mayor and Council, thank you for recognizing and supporting the department, and thank you to the residents of Eastpointe for supporting the Eastpointe Police Department. At this time, I'd like to ask Chaplain Friedman to come forward and say a few words.
First of all, on behalf of myself and our Eastpointe Police Department, I want to say thank you to the council, to the mayor, city manager, as well as to each and every one of you and the citizens of the city of Eastpointe. As Director McNeilis was reading off the reality of officers who gave the ultimate sacrifice and gave their life in the line of duty, it's well for us to remember, as our president stated, that for the over 700,000 sworn officers who still serve here throughout our country, and those who serve our Eastpointe Police Department, we hear about the officers' deaths, which has to be honored, and their legacy must be remembered. But the other part that we don't remember and we don't hear about because of the lack of sensationalism is the officers who have been wounded in the line of duty, those who are dealing with, be it physical or emotional or mental stress because of the things that they see day in and day out. We also want to remember them too. The challenges that they face are many, and it's really a blessing and it's really an honor when a municipality, a city, a county, a state, our federal government remembers our men and women who serve faithfully 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, who appreciate the job that they do day in and day out. It's also necessary for us to remember the wives and the husbands, the children, the grandparents, and the parents and the family of our police officers who every day that these men and women put this uniform on with this badge, they become a target. And when they say to them families, I hope to see you this evening or this morning or tonight, they have no knowledge of knowing if they're going to make it back home. So the families are struggling and suffering with this field. So we really need your support. We need your prayers. We need to know that the community, like tonight, is behind us in every way. It helps our officers know that they're appreciated, helps them do their job as they're going to do it with professionalism. But it helps them to know, and it's a beautiful thing to know that our communities are with us like Eastpointe. So I congratulate you all. Thank you for this honor, and our department is going to continue to serve as we've done in the past with distinction, professionalism, and compassion, and gusto to the city that we love dearly, the city of Eastpointe. Thank you.
Switching seats. You're in the back seat.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Here.
Councilperson Lucido?
Here.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Here.
Councilperson Marion? Here. Mayor Pixley?
Here. And with that, we'll open our first hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard at this time? Sir?
Good evening, Eastpointe. Jeff Georgian. Just coming up here to request that people continue to keep their lights on in the city, watch out for each other. In our neighborhood, we try to let each other know when we're going on vacation or out for a couple days or something like that. Keep an eye on everybody's yards, and my neighbor's yard is as important as mine is, for our neighborhood. And if we can get everybody to continue to put their lights on in the city and keep an eye out for each other, it'll be a much safer city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard at this time, please?
Good evening. My name is Randall Mercer. I live at 23041 Hayes. I'm calling in, I'm speaking in regard to the agenda item about the final improvement for the Aaron Park development. As a history, I came by both to the open house held across the street back last fall and the two planning commissions meetings this year. And well, first of all, I think that they were at the planning commission hearings. There were a lot more people here. And it was mentioned that they were asked if we would be notified by mail of the upcoming final approval. And somebody on the planning commission said, well, I assume so. And I think a lot of people didn't know that was going to happen tonight. So give you a little heads up, you might get some phone calls. Some of the things that were brought up there, they felt it was unfair to the neighboring communities, the ones that abutted the proposed development. People mentioned that they moved into their house because they liked the idea of living on a park, and have this green space converted to low-cost housing is not really what they signed up for. Second of all, there was a concern that is there really a need for more rental properties in Eastpointe at this time? Since the foreclosure crisis 8 or 9 years ago and stuff, the amount of rentals just really, really zoomed. I mean, just out of curiosity today, I made a map of the surrounding areas. And there's 173 homes that immediately surround the area. 56 are rentals. That's 32%. I mean, one of the streets only has 17%. One street has has 67% of the houses on there are currently rentals. I live on Hayes. My little piece of paradise has 37% rentals currently. If this is approved, I think there's 56 units that are being proposed. I'm not sure, but that would bring it up to 229 homes, 112 rentals. So instead of 32% rentals in our area, we're going to be going up to 48% rentals in the area. And I just think that a high percent of rentals decrease property values. They're less attractive to prospective buyers who maybe want to come and move to Eastpointe and lay down roots and stay here for the long run. They're less likely to spend money on home improvements because they don't know how long they're going to be here. It just makes it a less attractive place. I've been in my home for 39 years. I still like it. I mean, I'm not going to rush out no matter what you decide. But I mean, it's looming. It really is a problem, and we seem like we're the rental capital of the world now. I mean, I've lived next to rentals. Have them in my neighborhood. I mean, you could walk down my street and probably pick out the 11 out of the 30 homes between Charles R. and Stevens that are rentals. I mean, I don't want to generalize, not with complete accuracy, but you'd have a pretty good batting average if you tried. But anyways, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard at this time?
Suzanne, your mic's not
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, Administration, Walt Jakubiak, Eastpointe resident. This past weekend, my neighbor behind me was attacked by 3 pit bulls. I want everybody to be aware of what's going on in our city. She said none of them had a tag or a collar, so I'm ready to assume that these dogs were let loose in Detroit. So if you're out and about, make sure that you pay attention about everything that's going around you, because this woman is still shaken. She was very lucky. She reacted quickly and was able to get away from her and get away from him and get into the house, because it could have been a lot worse. So please be aware of your surroundings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard at this time? Anyone else? Seeing none, the first hearing of the public is closed. Move into approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of May 2nd, 2017. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the meeting minutes, the regular meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2017.
Support.
Move and support. Any corrections?
No.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. We have no scheduled hearings, no unfinished business. We'll move into reports from administration and start with our city manager, Mr. Duchesne.
Madam Mayor, members of council, just to highlight a few things for reminders to the public and pass these along. The 2016 Water Quality Report is posted, new format on the website. That is the most current year report. They go reflect the past year's tests, and they are up to date in 2017, but it's called the 16 report. That is available a little earlier than usual, but is on the website, and it gives a consumer assurance quality water standards are being met in our system. We are going to a system of street sweeping advance notice signs. There will be a sign on your street, please avoid parking on the curb. The next day, the street sweeping sign will say street sweeping tomorrow, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and where you see the signs, if you not park on the curb, that will aid greatly in uniformity and better quality of results from street sweeping. The Gratiot Cruise and the Memorial Day Parade, first of all, starting with Memorial Day Parade on Monday, May 29th, there is construction on Gratiot, as I mentioned before, to the best of the assurances of people who believe that they are sure what they're telling us. They are saying that it will be ready. They understand the permit. They understand the parade route for the 29th, as well as the cruise. They have made some modifications to their work schedule to have this area ready so that the proper parade can be executed on Gratiot from City Hall to Stevens and then to Kennedy Park. We are watching them closely and actively and trying to do our best to ensure that the promises made are promises kept. There is also consumer energy working in the area, which frankly are not as quite responsive to our local plans, nor MDOT's planning. So part of it is we have a very complex thing happening where everybody with good intention seems to be proceeding, but we'll watch it carefully, and all I can say is I've been assured and reassured that they believe what they're saying. A couple of notes too, on May 20th, there will be the recycling event. The City and Old Village Recyclers will sponsor free electronics recycling event, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Saturday the 20th at City Hall. A variety of electronic items may be dropped off, including flat screen TVs, all types of computer equipment, desk PCs and workstations, notebooks, laptops, tablets, printers. I don't know why they go into this much detail. All the electronic stuff may be put in the recycling. And again, petitions are available as normal and per the charter and current process of the city to run for open council seats. Signatures are required to be submitted with the petitions by July 25th at 4 p.m. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do you want
Oh, I have
to
one more
also
thing.
talk about what's going on over at the garage with all the items that can be taken over there on the 20th as well?
Oh, I do not, yeah, the open yard collection of waste, yeah, there's materials, and I don't know, see if I have my notes on that. I do not have my notes on the particulars on that.
Anything you can't put in?
Anything you can't put in your basically your recycling dumpsters, bulk items, things that of nature that wouldn't be disposed of by the curb and curbside pickup are available at our open yard day, and that is at 10 Mile at the Public Works and Service area. So
Concrete's a hot item.
concrete, good place to get rid of
Garbage men don't
concrete.
like that.
They do not.
And wood?
Please don't put it inside the cans. It makes it difficult for the truck to pick it up. So, and wood items, other materials.
And paint with kitty litter?
Yes, no sloshing buckets of paint go into this. Kitty litter is recommended to dry up the can of paint so that it is not a hazardous item, and that's collected once. Otherwise, you can dispose of some of those items like that at the county facilities during the rest of the year. I did forget one other item, too. I don't know if people are fully aware of it, but in Michigan on March 21st, a new law prohibited local governments from imposing a tax or fee or requiring a license for a limousine carrier, taxi cab carrier, or TNC, which is not a group. It is transportation network companies such as Uber and Lyft. Basically, we have been taken out of the taxi cab or transport licensing business. Municipalities are only left to enforce certain provisions of the Act that is otherwise now going to be handled by the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. The only thing we will be able to write as a civil infraction if a vehicle fails to display the proper signage, if a driver doesn't have proper insurance, if a TNC, again, new term, Uber and Lyft, or their similar competitors, attempts to solicit passage to a method other than their digital platform, or a driver fails to provide a ride to an individual due to discrimination. So Mr. Albright will have to do some ordinance tweaking where necessary, but I want to let people know we're kind of out of the regulation business again by your state of Michigan legislature has deemed it so. Thank you,
And
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Duchesne, we have a number of young people, high school students that are behind us. Would you like to explain?
Oh, certainly for the public, and this has been something that I know Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld and you supported and wanted to do this year in the Student Council Shadowing Project. What we have behind us is from East Detroit High School, a group of students who will be the Student Council tonight. And if you wonder why they're not here as bodyguards, but they're behind us to shadow council members. And they have a agenda item tonight that is a mock council discussion regarding a proposal that's on your agenda. And these students are here basically to certainly shadow, understand what council does, what local government does, and then participate in a short exercise of that activity while subbing in for the mayor and council that's seated. We're very happy to do this, and I thank Mayor Pro Tem for his work on the emails and assisting in setting this up tonight with these, and all of certainly the mayor's and the council's support and eagerness to work with the children in the community, even though, sorry guys, I called you children, but when you get as old as us, everybody's a child, but these young people and leaders of the community in the future. So we thank you all. And it is also on behalf of the staff a great pleasure to have you here tonight.
Any questions from the city manager?
I got one in regards to our animal control agreement that we have with the county. Coming into that, we had to have was it TNR program set up? I got a novel story to tell about cats. I just caught one in my pond with his arms in up to his shoulders trying to get a fish. And it was a stray cat. But aren't we supposed to institute that program in the city to try and do something with that?
Really, it's an agreement to adopt the regulations of the county in our contract, and our ordinance, upon reflection, does provide for alternatives in there. So we have, by its nature, by signing on with the county, agreed to their TNR. We got a lot of acronyms tonight. Process, and that's what our animal control will be instructed to implement.
Okay. I got one other quick question, and this is just kind of an observation I've made, and I know everybody likes to run through the payment of bills, and some things just kind of jump out at me as being unusual. And where we had a couple of bills for plumbing work where somebody did a menial task on a urinal or a menial task on a toilet with a plunger. And isn't there some way we could contract or find a volunteer to do some of that kind of work in the city without having to hire a professional to do it at an exorbitant cost? Because I noticed numerous, I could walk through this building right now and make a list of about 6 things that I could have a low-level handyman correct. And to me, it looks bad when you grab hold of a faucet handle and it's loose. You know, I mean, is there a way we can get that kind of stuff done without hiring, you know, XYZ construction company to do it?
One of the things when we contracted for custodial services some years ago is you do, during the day, kind of lose the ability to, you know, for a handy person, and Public Works is often engaged in field work, even though they are used sometimes to simply change light bulbs and other things. And actually, the assistant manager's plunged a few bowls in his time. I don't think we are up to the skill level of repairing urinals.
Well, they snaked it. And I don't
Yeah,
understand why you gotta snake a urinal in the first place.
I hate to ask why. But I know there's sometimes people have pitched in and done some other things. Those particular things I can take a look at with staff and see.
All right, I mean, you know, you got a loose toilet seat. I mean, to me, that's a liability issue. You're talking somebody trying to sit down and ended up taking a serious fall. You know, I mean.
You are correct.
You know, or burned out light bulbs. We gotta hire an electrician to put in a light bulb?
No, we actually use some of the Public Works maintenance staff, but again, it's with the cutbacks and restrictions, we have been limited sometimes getting them free during the
Okay,
day
but-
to do it. But it's good thoughts.
Can save a fortune.
Anything else?
Sure. Sorry.
Oh,
I had a similar, somewhat similar question to Councilman Marion here about, I saw in the check register also about the Shakespeare Road break. I was just wondering, do we have like a contract that we do? How does it work when we have an issue like that and we have a contractor come out? Do we have a contract for a certain amount of years like we do for cutting trees down or mowing lawns? It seems like that would be a good idea to have a better idea of what it'll cost each time. I don't know how that's handled, but that seemed like a good idea since we do that for other things that are pretty similar.
I'm not familiar with that particular bill itself, but we have a general contract for Public Works Services as a backup to the crew. And in fact, I think we actually use a couple of contractors in spot circumstances such as that. We've done a couple of years ago, we did a cost comparison between certain emergencies internally and externally. And obviously, depending on availability of resources, we often match up well, but on the other times, either need the additional personnel or you just don't have the ability to master the number of people with the ongoing events at the same time. So we do have a couple of those contracts. They are, I don't know the length on the one on, you remember?
Yeah, actually,
Randy,
I was
5
gonna say,
years?
the one he
Oh.
is questioning is for CMV, and we do have a contract with them. It's a time and material contract with set prices. They do road work for us, so, you know, you get a water main break, somebody has to come in and put the concrete back in, that kind of stuff. So any road work, they're under contract to do. So this happened to fall under that contract. I believe that was a 2-year contract. It might have been 3, but, you know, that's up to Randy Ultimus to keep track of that stuff, so.
Can you have Randy send that out to us? Just to resend it out, that
Sure.
contract? And then I just had one other question. we bought a few file cabinets for the city manager's office. I was just wondering, I was hoping we were going digital with a lot of stuff. That's all. It seems like it was quite a few file cabinets, it seemed like, too, so I didn't know.
I don't have any, so I'm wondering where they,
It was probably billed.
Well, maybe it's a good transition
be.
into Mr. Blum. No, it was
Then downstairs.
113317. It said, let's see, 113317. Yeah, file cabinets for city manager's office.
Could ask Linda.
$2,715.
There are still a lot of records that can't be just digitalized. They have to be.
Some
I
of
was
them are
just
part of it.
curious.
Yeah,
I mean, I know there is, but I
Yeah.
was just curious what.
It's not those
It's not just a
lateral
couple.
files that you have in there, is it, in that one room?
Well, the city manager, it's not just his office, it's the city manager's department, so.
Well, sure.
Yeah, I have to check. I really don't, I don't recall what the order was for. Linda, anything? No?
About any purchase of file cabinets for our office.
I haven't noticed any I bumped into, so,
Well,
but I will check.
send us a note.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Will do.
Anything else? All right, let's move on to our finance director, Mr. Blum.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. Council should have received a report on Able Electronics dated May 9th. I'd like to just see if there's any questions. If you had read the report, you'd see that over 82% of our spending in the last 3 fiscal years were on 4 projects approved by council. There was another chunk that was spent here at City Hall replacing the old analog cameras that were installed when the building was built in 2008, and then a smaller piece that was kind of a smattering of things throughout the city. And I just wanted to see if there was any questions or comments. Because of the scrutiny on this particular vendor, some needed maintenance has been put on hold just to see what council is thinking on this particular topic.
Well, I was just curious if they couldn't not group so many things together, because in the payment of bills, there's a $6,100 bill in here that says for 3 cameras and to relocate a switch, install and set up DVRs, and then it says library and police. So, I mean, it just seems like that's a whole lot of stuff, I think, and it's $6,100. When you chuck that in on here, that's another sizable chunk on that. And I'm just wondering, are we in a position that maybe we need to take some of this work and quote it out to another vendor, just to see how they're stacking up?
Able does fall under state bid, so there really isn't any competitive advantage going outside of that. The large projects have been brought to council and approved. Everything here in City Hall is just a camera died. You know, there's 1 here, 2 there. What the largest group was about $10,000, and that's when we had 4 cameras go down at the same time, and had to replace those along with some additional wiring. We have found some problems where they had been mounted. We were having bad audio. So we had some instances where people were saying, hey, your clerks were swearing at me. We pull up the video, and we see the video, and all you hear is the fan going. So we had them lower the camera and the mics and things like that. It happened to all be at the same time, unfortunately. But that was all, we would view that as maintenance, not necessarily a project. I mean, there's still more analog in this building that'll have to be replaced over the next couple of years as they die out. I mean, it's electronics running 24/7, so they do fail. But yeah, I mean, the big projects are spec'd out and brought before council, so.
They've certainly been successful to us in the library case alone, which has an apprehension of offenders for a variety of incidents. And I mean, I think it's proved. We also had the slip and fall defense with one. We've had some other analysis with that being on camera and film. So, and I know the police department recently had some issues and upgrade, not upgrade as in, you know, just wanted new cameras, but it had some failure in the system. And that one's kind of important with the 24/7, 365 operation there, so.
Well, if we have some a number of analog cameras left that we're going to have to replace, would it make sense to do something like we did with the 144,000, just put together a project for 2018 where we bid it out or something like that? And just get them all replaced rather than...
That's a possibility. Some of the ones here at this building are out in the parking lot, and until the parking lot's redone, there's actually no room to run the cable that we need to get the cameras up and running. So that's on hold until the parking lot gets refinished. I believe there's still a couple within the building, but it's, again, onesies, twosies. I don't know how many are at the police department, because they do have some older analog ones too. But it's worth looking into, is bidding it as a project.
I mean, it would be more expensive to just keep calling them out one thing at a time than just,
Yeah.
I think where we see a grouping of that, I'll talk to the purchasing agent tomorrow about doing that. We can start with IT, a listing of what our potential projects are going to be in the near and mid-range future. I don't see why they couldn't group those together and then bring that to council for one approval and move ahead on that. It would seem like we'd save something on the call-out fees or whatever charge. And I don't know, I'm not going to cite what Able charges per se on that, but it would seem like it would be logical. And we can do that.
How come all these cameras weren't included in the original bids, I guess, when like we did the DPW yard or something? I would have assumed that the whole, I guess maybe that was a question I didn't ask at the time, but how come we left some cameras out then? If we still had some analog left, seems like we would have changed them all at once.
Well, the only anecdotal thing I can say from my knowledge and perspective, there has been a couple of times I've been approached with a limitation on vision on a camera that was by a third-party act, not anticipated. I won't say that happened in every case, but there has been some situations where they had an experience and realized that a camera coverage was too limited and it could be expanded. I mean, we've had people, do things like set fire to the dumpster behind the library, knock over a statue in the library, and sometimes you found there were zones or pictures that weren't quite as, as clear as you'd want them to be. So some of it's ongoing development process. Others, I'm sure that they were just perhaps missed in their analysis.
Anything else?
Sorry, yeah, I had one question for the finance director. The street sweeper, 113375, I'd
Yes.
assume.
Mm-hmm.
Do we, so I guess we clearly don't own it, or were we getting a second one, or it said it was a lease or something?
It was a 4-year lease. That is the final payment on that particular one. We will probably be looking at bringing in another one. The first 3 years of the lease included all the maintenance. The 4th year does not, so we're on the hook for all the brooms and all the stuff that has to be replaced. So we're probably next fiscal year, we'll be taking a look at replacing the one we have with a new vehicle, also on lease.
What was the total price for the 4-year lease then, roughly? Wasn't 40,000 per year?
Per year, yeah.
40,000 per year?
Yep.
It seemed like you could buy one for about that price from what I saw online for the same Elgin.
And it would have been fairly close if we had bought it. We would have just had to have the cash up front.
Mm-hmm.
The lease payments pretty much equaled what a purchase price would have been, but we got to spread it over 4 years instead of, spending all the cash. And that was back when we were starting to run short.
For next time, then, I wouldn't mind seeing both, to see the lease and for this next
Yes.
one, see
We
the lease
would,
and
yeah.
We always
purchase
do a
price.
purchase lease comparison.
Okay.
Yep.
That was all.
Okay, let's move on to our city attorney, Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. The first item under a new business this evening is a request for us final site plan approval. In accordance with the ordinance, there are certain findings that do need to be made. At the appropriate time, Madam Mayor, I'd like to read into the record Section 50-120, subsection E2A through D, just so the council is aware of the findings that need to be made. And if there is a motion to approve that final site plan approval, I also have some suggested language that could be added to the recommended motion. So, and that's all I have at this time, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is that for site plan or the special land use you're talking about for Aaron Park, right?
It's actually final site plan approval for the special land use.
Okay, so we wouldn't be, well, today was the, oh, you mean you want to amend today? Because today it was the special land use that we were approving, not the site plan?
It's final site plan approval for this evening.
I thought there were two parts to this, the
Should be final site plan approval, because that's what was passed at the Planning Commission at the last meeting last week.
I don't think we had that in the.
That's
our
not
notes.
what the motion says. You're going to change the motion then, correct?
Yes.
To the final site plan.
Yes.
I get it.
I would have reviewed it well, we'll discuss that when we get to.
And that's all I had, Madam Mayor. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Albright?
No.
Did you have one? All right, let's move on to new business, and we'll start with item A, which is the final approval of special land use as a planned development for Aaron Park. Do we have a motion?
I think that's the question. What is the motion?
Oh, yes, I'd like to read into the record, the applicable ordinance section. Let me just bring that up. Yes, 50-120 E2 states the final site plan, along with all supporting documentation, shall accompany the Planning Commission's recommendation for final review by the City Council. The Council, in reviewing the final site plan, shall find that A, the final site plan is in conformity with the preliminary site plan and meets the conditions of this section. B, the dedication of public rights-of-way and/or planned public open spaces where proposed on the site plan, or as may otherwise be required, shall be made or properly assured. C, in residential use areas, any prorated open space has been irrevocably dedicated and retained as open space for park, recreation, and related uses, and all such lands meet the requirements of the city. And D, all master deed and other applicable legal documents such as development agreements, easements, rights-of-way, et cetera, have been reviewed and approved. And I believe that the city planner, in conjunction with city administration, has approved all of that. And so, again, the applicant is here to answer any questions that the council may have.
Does council have any questions? We were all given the site plan to review.
Well, but I wasn't prepared to vote on a site plan approval today, though. I just assumed we were just focusing. I didn't know if maybe McKenna or anyone else had more to go over. There were a couple of items in here, but I thought it was just specifically just the, as it says in the recommended motion, final approval of the special land use, not the whole site plan. I mean, I'm not prepared to vote on that today.
That's all that's left to do. Maybe could I have Director Van Haren address that?
Please.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. So tonight's meeting was intended to approve the final site plan and special land use. We did preliminary site plan and special land use at last month's meeting, and Planning Commission also did the preliminary approval at last month's meeting. So this would be final site plan and special land use approval. And they have tightened up and modified the site plan to the point where it is recommended for approval. There are no additional modifications. I mean, it's done.
Okay.
Did you have specific questions?
Well, I don't know if I do at this point. I was, I mean, I read all McKenna's.
You know what, if Cardi wants to, I apologize because I know we have people here, but if he wants to table it for next meeting, because it does say on the agenda, approval of special land use. So if there was any residents who were concerned about the site plan and wanted to come and speak about it, they might not have recognized that that's what we were actually approving tonight.
And I didn't comb through I know we got the large document of site plans, but.
And I know during the hearing of the public, there was a gentleman who said,
right.
yeah, but he indicated he
But
didn't know.
at the multiple planning meetings, there were a number of people that did come and express their concerns And most of those concerns have been met with the revised site plan.
Yeah,
Is that not correct? I
yeah,
mean,
and
there
in
were a
fact,
number of issues that were brought up at the planning commission.
There were, so we held the public hearing, and we did get a lot of comment from the community, as well as Community Housing Network held a meeting prior to ever coming before the Planning Commission. And so ultimately, it ended up being 3 or 4 meetings at the Planning Commission, and this is the second meeting at City Council, so it's been, I think, well noticed that that we were looking at final approval for this tonight.
I just recall from watching the meetings, a number of issues that were brought up that have been integrated into the final site plan. There were a lot of accommodations. I'm sure the people here that are with the project could tell you there was a number of things related to access to parking spaces and trees and fences and all those types of things.
Yeah, they absolutely, and they did address the concerns of the planning consultant as well as the engineering consultant with sidewalks and roads and fencing and parking spaces were accommodated.
Was there anything specific, Mr. DeMonico?
Well, like I said, I didn't look as detailed at the site plan because it's just the items, the special land use as a planned development's a whole separate set of items than
But
site
it
plan.
does say final site plan on the letter from Mrs. Van Haren.
Well, I guess I was looking at the recommended motion because then, I think that probably makes sense, but I didn't know if maybe there was another step. We've done these separately before. I don't know. I'd motion to table, otherwise I don't know, I feel like I'd have to abstain. I don't know if
But you
I'm
got the whole
100%
packet of
comfortable here.
prints. Did you look at the prints on how they changed from the last, there's a progression
No,
with
that's
a
what
lot of the changes? Did you look through them at all?
That's what I'm saying. I'm not, I would have
But-
looked closer.
But you got it in the packet. I mean, there was a curiosity of why we got another set of prints, and they were different.
Right, sometimes we take our time doing things, that's all.
Well,
The recommended motion and what's on our actual agenda is land use. And I think,
But it
Yeah.
does say to grant final approval.
well, I'm curious with the people that are planning this. We've already messed up one timeline that they were trying to meet a deadline on, and now all of a sudden are you up against a time constraint again on getting something submitted to somebody? Did you come up and speak for that? Because I know we already did that, Planning Commission did that to you once already.
Good evening. I'm CJ Felton from Community Housing Network. We submitted the application to the state on April 3rd for this. They're in the process of review right now. We felt that we had, with the steps that we had taken up in front of the actual submission date, even though we didn't have final approval, that they were probably, they had what they needed to evaluate it, and so we would like this to get done soon. It would be helpful, but at this point, nothing that Planning Commission did really stood in the way.
Okay. All right, well, I don't want us to stand in the way because we had a motion that accidentally got written up incorrectly, where it should have been cited as that we were up against final site approval.
well, it sounds like you're saying if we just have to do this at our next meeting, it probably won't be a issue for you. I know that you want to get it done today.
Yeah, because that would be what, first week of June?
I think it's three
3 weeks from
3
today.
weeks from today.
And maybe Mary can help on this. Our architect is here also, and we were just having a conversation here. We think that when you ask for final approval of plan development, you are also approving the site plan at that point. They're one and the same.
Okay.
As opposed to if you were, we've been here in front of Planning Commission, Council before when there have been other developments here who actually had a site plan. They weren't asking for plan development, and that you know, you actually are evaluating just the site plan on that. Maybe Mr. Albright has an opinion on that as well, but
Well, that's how I was going to revise the recommended motion, just to address that. I mean, the council could, if it wanted, could pass a motion this evening, or it could table a matter. It's certainly up to the council as to what it prefers to do, but either could be accomplished.
So if we were to table it and Cardy goes back and reviews it, then if he wants to make changes, any type of changes, then it would have to go back to the planning commission, would it not?
No, it would stay here with the council.
City council could make changes to the site plan?
City council is the ultimate decider on that, yes.
And I don't have any issues with anything right now. I just hadn't reviewed as thoroughly, like I was saying.
Yeah, and if I could just
would
comment,
have.
this is different special land use than typically when you're, like if you were approving a special land use for a car dealer to sell used vehicles, that would be a special land use, and then his site plan would be a separate issue. In this case, it is a special land use approval for the site plan. So they're one combined. You can't approve one without the other. They do go together, as Mr. Feldon was explaining, and it is for the development. So it's a special land use for this development to occur.
It's a PD, it's a planned development.
That's right.
That in
That's right.
its
That's what
site-
the special land use is for, the
That's
planned
an entity in itself.
That's correct. So it is a little different beast than we're used to seeing. We've only done this probably another one time when they did their development out at Grafton.
Well,
And
if-
Oakwood Manor.
Okay, if,
Yeah.
if that, and so then McKenna's comments here are about the site plan, well, are about the plan development and / site plan then, all at once then?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, I was on the fence about this, but with Mary's recommendation, I actually think we should just approve it.
I'd like to make a motion according to Mr. Albright's guidelines as to how this should read. For the record.
And I can read that proposed motion
Okay.
with the council's permission, okay.
That
Motion to grant final site plan approval and special land use as a planned development to Community Housing Network for Aaron Park in accordance with 50-120E12A through D, which is located at 15115 Deerfield, to construct a two-family residential development consisting of 52 units.
Just like I said.
Support.
Move to support it. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Marion?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Abstain.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Item B is the approval of the special event application for the Michigan Military Museum for their 6th annual car show. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve a request by Chris Causley to conduct the 6th annual car show in the Michigan Military Technical and Historical Museum parking lot on Friday, June 9th, 2017, from 3 p.m. until 8 p.m.
Support?
Move to support. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Item C is a motion to approve the telecommunications right-of-way permit for Chillicothe Telephone Company, i.e. doing business as the Horizon Network Partners. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the telecommunications right-of-way permit for 15 years with a 15-year renewal to the Chillicothe?
City in Ohio.
Chillicothe Telephone Company doing business as Horizon Network Partners, and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents related to the permit.
Support?
Move to support.
Sarah's got it.
I have some questions about this. How many telephone lines can we put in the right-of-way? But because it's a right-of-way, we don't, it's a Metro Act, and we have no right at
Right.
all We just have to sign this.
Yeah, there's very little option you have. I'm not even sure, outside of local coordination control and some fees back for the people's investment in the right-of-way, why we act much on these anymore. With the Metro Act, the state of Michigan has superseded local control again. And you really have very few options that will be approved one way or another.
So I did have some discussion about this list of location addresses. These are people that are their customers?
We have no idea.
You have no idea.
Permit is for use of the right-of-way in that particular manner under the Metro Act. We don't know and can't ask, as a matter of review or opinion, whether they're servicing a client, what their bigger plans are to expand. All of the things we used to ask before giving right-of-way franchises have been usurped by the state of Michigan. Even the logical ones would be, how much are you going to do all the city, part of the city? They met all the requirements, and they were sent to us for local approval with that information that you have before you, unfortunately.
So a long time ago, we fought the issue with the Metro Act. But as I recall, the city will get 2% of their total customer. Is that right? Is that the fee?
There's, I think,
2% of all funds that they collect, except for taxes.
yeah, and there is, yeah, there's an exclusion in there, the way they calculate, but fundamentally, let's go with that. That's, we do have some sharing of revenue from the permit when we issue it.
Okay.
But so, just in plain English, I guess, this is a new internet service provider then for Eastpointe residents?
Probably, yeah, it's an internet
Or it could be
connection.
phone or-
It could, yeah, it could be a different form, you know, I mean, it could be run for a specific purpose or broadband capabilities within the pipe. Yeah,
They get to
that's,
then choose, they just need the.
could they be
permission to use
carrying the
space.
signal of other carriers even? Could be.
Because of the fact this is all gonna be fiber optic, I mean, they might make all the rest of those wires hanging up there obsolete.
It could. I mean, there's potential. They could be working under a large company's direction now, taking these. They could be doing it on a I've seen it on a speculative basis before. They find inclusion into a community, and then they act from there. Yeah.
All right, please call the roll.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Item D is a corridor improvement lighting study, and this is where the students take over.
Madam Mayor, I wanted to introduce my student. I wonder if we could
Good idea.
go down the line and do it that way.
Okay.
This is Nyla. She's a sophomore class treasurer. She's running for junior treasurer right now, correct? She is involved in bowling and soccer at East Detroit High School. She's the youngest of 5, and her mother's in the audience, and I think I should pay you a compliment. I got the opportunity to speak with her. She's a very lovely young lady, and I think she's very bright, so I think you did a good job. So. I'll go ahead and switch.
Now I'd like to introduce Stacy Williams, and she is on student council also, and she is the junior class treasurer. And next year you'll be the senior class treasurer.
I'm running.
Oh, she's running for it.
I'm up. This is Julian. He's a freshman. I didn't get his whole bio, but he's a very active student. He enjoys school. He's got a tremendous interest in math and chemistry. Jump in. You're taking over.
And this is Timothy Avery. He's a junior at East Detroit High School, of course. And welcome. And I just wanted to say that about 10 years ago, Mayor Pro Tem Kleinfeld and I both did the same thing. We shadowed the city council, so maybe in a few years you'll be the one up here voting on everything.
And my student is Alan, who is the president, vice president of the junior class. And he is going to take over my role and lead the discussion of this corridor improvement lighting study. He's a very smart person who is attending classes already at Macomb Community College. He's finished 2 or 3 of his classes that are required for undergrad, and he will be next year taking some of the easy classes that drive all of us crazy, like calculus and the heavy-duty math classes. So he's going to do a great job.
List of names. Do we have the list? Do we have the list of the names? Anybody want to bring it up? Okay. All right.
All right, so good afternoon. Apparently I'm the mayor now.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Easy victory. All right, so the students here will be talking about or discussing whether it would be a good idea for us to hire a consultant that will determine the cost of corridor decorative light improvement study for the city of Eastpointe. So we already have a couple of street lights out of the front of the building, and it has been proposed by a citizen to create more of those lights all along Gratiot. So I guess I'll open with some discussion. Some pros would be that it could decrease crime rates across the city of Eastpointe. Obviously, criminals would not be interested in robbing somebody in daylight where they can be seen. That would eliminate the purpose of the crime. Some other pros would be it could attract more business to the city of Eastpointe, which is always a good thing. More people will come in. Any other student members have any discussion that they would like to bring up?
Hi, guys. Another pro is that for people who have trouble seeing it at night, it will bring, light to them so they're able to see. It also will benefit Eastpointe citizens and other citizens who ride through Eastpointe, who have trouble seeing in the dark. So, yeah.
Any others? Okay, I could turn to some cons now. So some things that would possibly be negative about it is obviously the cost. Another thing is that Gratiot is controlled by MDOT, I believe. So we would have to go through them to get anything done, such as the streetlights. So that would be a barrier that we would have to consider while moving towards that. And then this is only a study. This is not the actual thing. So something else to consider is who would be doing the study. Would we want to have an architect doing the study, or would we want to have an engineer doing the study? These are all decisions that we would have to consider.
May I request some financial information? The finance director.
Yes, it is currently estimated that the cost of the installation and the annual electrical would be $325,000 per year. As a special assessment, the assessment can be placed on the people or entities that benefit from the improvement. There are currently 55 parcels along the Gratiot corridor, and the cost would have to be split among those 55 parcels in a manner acceptable by state law. As a simple math, it comes out to almost $6,000 per parcel per year. So you'd have to convince businesses it's worth $6,000 a year to put some lights up, and that would be a consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Didn't have equal exposure, different amounts of frontage. They had different amounts of exposure. You'd have a small little store and another big store. They're both paying the same amount.
Yeah, there are multiple, under a special assessment, there's multiple ways to assess it. In something like this, it could be done per parcel equally. It could be done based on linear footage along the street. So a Pep Boys would pay more than the CPA or, attorney firm or something like that. But it would still come down to, do the businesses benefit by the amount of money you're asking them to pay? I mean, that is always got to be consideration.
Thank you.
So, in turn, this is a very open discussion right now, so obviously nothing is really finalized. We don't know who's going to do it, the flexible payment, as he was just talking about, whether we want to put that on, the citizens, the business. So any further discussion? Should we move to vote?
Somebody's got to make a motion and with support, take some action.
Oh, right. Motion?
Motion by Stacy, supported by
Tim.
Motion by Stacy to approve hiring a consultant that will determine the cost of a corridor decorative lighting improvement study for the city of Eastpointe and provide such report back to the student council so that further action may be taken.
Support.
All right, motioned and supported. Any further discussion? Should we take vote?
Let me get your names correctly. It says Stacy Williams and supported by,
Julian Warren.
motion by Williams, by Warren. Okay. Roll call vote. Councilperson Williams?
Yes.
Councilperson Warren?
Yes.
Councilperson McAvis?
Approve.
Councilperson Avery?
Yes.
And Mayor in trivia?
No.
No,
No,
I'm
not
down there, trivia. Sorry. There you go. 5-0. Good job. Good job. Let's give them a round of applause. Students, you may stay with us back here, but if you want to adjourn at this time, I know there are comfortable seats in that, but if you want to adjourn, we'll certainly give you the opportunity to.
What a great job.
Very good.
Our next item is to approve the schedule, the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2017-18 budget. We have a motion to that effect.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to schedule a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2017-2018 budget for Tuesday, June 6, 2017 at 7 p.m. pursuant to Chapter 12, Section 7 of the Eastpointe City Charter, and direct the Deputy City Clerk to publish all required notices of the public hearing.
Support.
We're going to support. Any discussion on that?
I just had one quick question. When are we receiving the line item breakdown of the budget? We hadn't, like we did, last year. And
Yeah, if you're requesting it now, we'll have copies for you. We can send it out this week.
Okay. Sounds good.
Any further questions? Please call the roll.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Item F is to receive and file the city attorney and city manager evaluations. I need a motion to that effect, please.
Madam Mayor, I motion to receive and file the city attorney and city manager evaluations.
Support.
Move and support it. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Item G is consideration of the city manager's proposed contract.
I don't think we're under the gun for this. I was going to suggest, since we have students here still, that we just table this for the June 6th meeting. So I motion to table until June 6th.
Support.
Move and support to table. Any further discussion on that? Please call the roll.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Our next item is Section 8, Item A, payroll and bills. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve payment of bills in the amount of $1,063,689.83.
Support?
Supported. Any further questions? Please call the roll.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Next item is hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard at this time? Please step forward. And state your name. And you have 3 minutes, and I will notify you at the end with 30 seconds left.
I shouldn't need 3 minutes.
I don't ever remember you being here before, so.
Well, once in a while, but I don't know if it's been since you've been mayor. But anyhow, my name is Denise Daniel. I have concerns about the Aaron Park parking because under the ADA rules that were published for starting in 2010, there should be 5 handicap parking spaces for 129. So between 100 and 150 parking spaces requires 5 handicap spaces. And this is a particular thing for me because my mom is on a walker and in a wheelchair from time to time. She's 90 years old. And a lot of time we go places and basically the handicap spaces are not where they should be. You know, in order to get a handicap parking permit, you can't be able to walk unassisted for more than 200 feet, and I'm getting to that point almost. And a lot of places are just paying lip service to it. I want to see Eastpointe as a city that is sensitive to the needs of the elderly and the handicapped, and also at least going with the minimum requirements of the ADA. Now, I know state requirements and local requirements can be different, but the ADA requires for the first 25 spaces, 1 space. For the second 25, another space. The third 25, another space. The fourth 25, another space. And then the next 50, another space. So that would be 5, and they've only got 3 for 129 spaces. So I would like to see that changed to be truly in step with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Yes, sir. It was a long walk.
Okay, so on the behalf of Student Assembly, I would like to say thank you for allowing us to come today. I don't know if this is like out of line, but I figured this is the appropriate time to say it. So thank you.
And you can come back this way.
And that was Timothy Avery. I think didn't introduce himself at the beginning, so.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Sir.
Gary Myron from Eastpointe. My problem is handicaps. A lot of people don't use them, or a lot of people use them, but they're not handicapped. They'll have the sticker, their mom, their grandma. People that need them can't use them. Shoppers Market, Rite Aid, all these places, happens everywhere. Nothing is being done. And I think something should be done. Somebody check it. I mean, I know it costs a lot for checking it, and they know it. And that's why, I'm going to use my mom's car. I could park right, in front. Walking don't matter. Walking's good for you. So why doesn't people just walk if they're able to do it and save it for the people that need it? 5 spaces in this spot, who's going to use them? Not the real handicaps. It's going to be all the other people. Something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Seeing none, the second hearing of the public is closed. Move to mayor and council reports, and let's start with Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Kleinfeld.
Okay, I want to first say thank you to all the students for coming. This is kind of a loose format this year. Like Councilmember DeMonico mentioned, this was something that we used to do 10 years ago. Hopefully next year we can get the school board on board with it too and kind of just bring it back. So thank you all for coming. And I also wanted just to mention if we could possibly get an update about doing maybe a proposed date next meeting for a joint meeting with the school board. That might be good to start putting together a time to meet with them. So, and that's all.
Ms. Lucido?
First, I'd like to thank all the students for coming out. Just like extra homework tonight for you guys. Sorry about that, because it was our idea. But I hope you guys had a good time and maybe learned something. Also, I would like to let everyone know that the 8K Homeowners Association meeting is tomorrow, Wednesday, May 17th at 7 p.m. at Pleasant View Elementary School, which is located on Topher. If anyone's interested in going, they're always looking for new members also, so feel free to pop in and check it out. It's a very great organization. They put out a very nice newsletter. They like to keep everyone very updated on what's going on in the community. Also, just really quick, the library is going to be closed on May 27th and May 29th because of Memorial Day. And I hope to see everyone out at the Memorial Day Parade. And that'll be it for this evening.
Okay. Mr. Marion?
I'd like to thank all the students for your involvement tonight. I hope you did learn something. I think it was something, if you haven't experienced it before, this had to be fairly interesting. Again, make sure everybody comes to the parade. Last year I thought we had a pretty good turnout. This year should even be better. And the forecast, I believe, we got some stretches of some really nice weather headed our way, so should be good for that too. And that's all I have.
Mr. DeMonico?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to also thank you all for coming out. It was good to see you, and when you were up at the table here, I thought that you all were publicly speaking very well, because I know I was scared to do that in high school, and it seemed very natural up here, so that was great, and yeah, hopefully we can do this again sometime, or maybe I'll, like I said, see you up at the table later in the future. And then also, this would be a good transition into, I went to the most of the congressional districts in the United States do an art competition, and I went to our congressional district's art competition because my wife Alyssa was one of the judges for it. And I'll tell you, that was some terrific work that these students did. It was really nice. It was at the Dovetail just over in Warren, just a few miles from here. If you can catch that next year, go out there. It's all the high school students putting in just various 2D pieces of art. So that was a good time. And we did mention, I'd like to just mention again, the Open Yard Day and Recycling Day is May 20th. If you want more information or what's okay to bring, I think we've posted that on Facebook and the website, and emailed it out too if you're on the email list, so look for that email if you are. And then the 23rd and 24th of this month, well, at least the 23rd will be our budget workshops, the 24th if we need another day. And then on the 24th also, we'll have music in the plaza here. First one of the season, Wally Fitz Jazz, 6:30 at City Hall. So come on up and check that out. That's all I had, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. So I really want to thank all of you students, and I'd like to thank the mayor, who did a great job. One of the things that my responsibility as mayor is to promote things like the Memorial Day Parade. So I have these cards. I've been told that it's not necessary to give high school students information about a Memorial Day Parade, that you all know about it, but I want you to be sure that every one of our students that are here tonight know about it. So the parade, I think, is going to be fun. It starts here at City Hall, and we'll wind across on Gratiot and up Stevens, correct, Mr. Duchesne, and where they're not going to, all the curbs are going to be filled in and nobody's going to have to step over gravel. We do have an interesting ceremony to highlight the Veterans Day itself. There will be some explanation as to why the flag is lowered to half-mast and then raised precisely at 12 noon. And the explanation is going to be there, so I'm inviting everybody to come to find out that little feature that a lot of people have no idea what that means. And there is a pancake breakfast in the morning. It's advertised that it's free to all veterans, but it's open to all residents. It's at the Oddfellows from 8 until 10 in the morning. And then after the parade and after the ceremony, there will be a community picnic over at Kennedy Park. So I encourage everybody to come. It was amazing last year how many people we had. And we're encouraging the high school band to stay behind. I understand that they need some new uniforms, so we're asking if they would play a song or two so we can get some donations for their band uniforms as well. I would like to also express a deep sympathy. Two of our residents, longtime residents, died this past week. One was Mr. Shaner, Jim Shaner, who was very active with the seniors group for many, many years. And that funeral service is tomorrow. But he was one of the people I remember very well that didn't want us to close the senior center, and he was here really pushing on that. And the other one is Mr. Stryka. And many of you will remember Mr. Stryka's candy store that was there on Kelly Road for a long, long period of time. He was always a very active resident, always active in our community activities. So deepest sympathy to the family. And the family was from an AK group as well. On the AK meeting tomorrow night, Sue Todd from the library is going to be the speaker, and the other speaker is going to be Joe Marucci from administration, who's going to be talking about how you can get a tree for in front of your house. So he's very excited about doing that as well. The handicap stickers, that is one of my big peeves. When you go anywhere that somebody else gets out of that and they can walk a lot better than me, and they're using that space, and that's just not right. But I do want to tell you that I think our police follow up on the abuse of the handicap parking lots a lot. When we were doing the ride-along with the police department, on the night that I was running, we went to every single handicap space in the city, and unless there was something else, that was one of the things that the police always do and always follow up. And I was very surprised to see how much they followed up on that, but we were over at Big Lots, and there were 2 people that got tickets that night because they were parked there and they had no reason to be in a handicap lot. So I know that our police do follow up on that. That also is a pet peeve of mine. The man that brought it up about the pit bulls, Jakubiak. Right now, I know they're canvassing throughout the city for licensure to be sure that all of our dogs are licensed and have the proper immunizations. And pit bulls can be a problem. They can get very aggressive, and even if they're fenced, they can knock that fence down. So have to be very, very attentive to all of those things. And that's all I have for tonight. I encourage everybody to get ready for the cruise. Cruise is going to be fun. So we have our Memorial Day coming up, and then the cruise is 1 week long of activities. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
Please call the roll.
Councilperson Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilperson Marion?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilperson DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilperson Lucido?
Yes.
How much do we have to